Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Terror descends in the ninja realm, all under the Five Shadows Resistance Jingxiangye, who carried the main deity, embarked on an adventure in Kiba but failed to complete the mission, and punishment continued to descend upon the ninja realm. It's okay, the ninja realm itself is a place to endure pain. It's okay, my partners are all very strong, it's okay. Soft rice doesn't hurt your teeth when you eat it, it's okay, the ninja world is always going to change, the main god is hot-blooded and humorous, and the female protagonist of the ninja world is soft rice. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The favorite of Nuclear Bomb Boy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the 57th year of the Kiba era, it was a small mansion for commoners, with beds and fragrant leaves from the capital, a good name, a good name. I worked hard all my life for Mu Yi, even my child's name was Yi. In the end, the two of them died in battle, leaving behind a lost sum of money, this house, and only 7 years old. Poor me. Jingxiangye's face collapsed. Who's the big name of the family called Jingxiang? Can you pull it down? It's okay if a man doesn't wear a hook, what's wrong with such a woman's name? Looking at the wooden roof, Jingxiangye had an indescribable expression on her face. As a good person with a wide interest in the virtual world, I never expected to come to the world of Naruto. To come to such a world, in fact, it is not a good place to put aside those anime paper people. As a commoner ninja living in the lower levels of the ninja world, these days are definitely not easy. My parents are Zhongren and sacrificed themselves while carrying out tasks a while ago. As Kyo Kagami, who is about to enter ninja school, she no longer holds hope for the future. In my memory, there was only one throw of my chakra, and the things produced by the clone technique were inferior to those of Naruto during this period. Perhaps Naruto has already graduated and he is still working as a thug in the next ninja class, so. You came to help me, right? Jingxiangye looked at the big light ball in front of her. As a widespread fan of the virtual world, she was very familiar with such a big light ball. The main deity of the heavens and all realms. Release the mission founding ball. Funny to take on the big light ball. Playing with human little experts. Anyway, such a master god followed along and became the only reincarnator himself. I really appreciate you. There was no response, only the task was to go to the world of Biohazard in 3 days and prevent the nuclear bomb from destroying Raccoon City. Task reward. 1,000 points. Task failure penalty. Low yield nuclear strikes around the host on the host plane, hehe, Jingxiangye sneered, truly deserving of being your big light ball. If you want me to die, just say so. Why did you post such a mission? Don't think I don't watch movies. As a widespread fan of the virtual world, do you think I'm just dabbling in certain genres? The posture I am exploring. Ah, there are many hobbies to explore. Going to Raccoon City as a person who can't even afford to lose everything, and still trying to prevent a nuclear strike. Are you going to let me go over and have someone slice it? Just blow up everything and it's over. Besides this one method, is it just a 7-year-old child using their head to prevent a nuclear strike? Reminder. The host cannot disclose the information of the main deity to anyone outside the plot. First warning, second erasure, hehe, so failure is not killing. Can you show me some fireworks to stimulate it? For the world of Naruto, Kyo Kagami cannot be said to like or dislike it. Anyway, this is an unstable world, and a group of terrorists want to blow up the wooden leaves. As a commoner ninja, I cannot leave the village without justifiable reasons. So. Let my bear the pain. Think about it, my seems to have endured a lot of pain. This village has been destroyed several times, and since that's the case, there won't be many more of them. Okay, 3 days later, right? I can't finish this task. Can we get a reward in advance? Jingxiangye stood up and took off the boiling kettle. Naruto should also be nibbling on instant noodles at this time, right? Unexpectedly, I also have the treatment of a protagonist. Pouring hot water and blowing hot air, Jingxiangye angrily threw her fork. Think about it. I rarely ate instant noodles in my past life, but after crossing time, I can only eat instant noodles. I have a god around me, but I still have to eat enough noodles. Huh, it's so fragrant, it's starving to death. With a bowl of instant noodles, Jingxiangye was about to prepare for school. A few days ago, 3 generations of old rabbits, no old boss, seem to have already given a speech. Where the leaves are dancing, there is a fire burning, which has ignited the passion of countless children. In my memory, there were quite a few people in a large class, but Jingxiangye didn't remember anyone else. It seems like I was brainwashed with extra passion at that time. After finishing the meal, I simply tidied up and found that there was still a lot of money at home. It shouldn't be a problem to save a little until my teens. At that time, the worst thing was being patient, and there was no problem supporting oneself. After finishing my meal and tidying up my thoughts, as I watched the gradually falling night outside the window, Jingxiangye let out a sigh. I don't have much ambition, although I don't want to just die like this. It seems like I have nothing to do. How could anyone let a 7-year-old child stop a nuclear bomb strike from the beginning? Just thinking about Jingxiangye makes you feel a headache. Having nothing to say all night, Jingxiangye also fell asleep in a daze. In the morning, she woke up to tidy up briefly. Stepping out of the room, Jingxiangye followed the memory of the ninja school, knowing that her home seemed to be on the edge near the west gate. This kind of geographical location, fortunately, the surrounding area is full of big clans, such as the famous Uchiha. Oh, we haven't exterminated the clan yet. According to the timeline, Kyoko Kagami can't remember how long it will take to exterminate the clan. Anyway, it's probably about time. It's about Sasuke going to school for a year before he exterminates the clan. Jingxiangye didn't pay attention to these messages, and she didn't care either. Anyway, it wasn't herself who died. Secondly, the Hinata clan is nearby, and their home is not far from them, which means that their location is relatively safe when a war breaks out in the future. When a bag of rice comes several floors, Jingxiangye hides directly near the west gate, claiming to assist in defense but actually avoiding rice attacks. Secondly, there are some poor families around, including another protagonist who loves to eat instant noodles. Although Jingxiangye doesn't know the specific location where Naruto lives, she has seen it many times in her memory. Secondly, it is precisely because these houses are not far from the Hinata clan that Hinata was able to meet Naruto. Secondly, the Ramen Noodles restaurant seems not far away. Isn't this a proper fate circle? I snorted coldly, feeling very safe. When the nuclear bomb struck, I would directly erase the Hinata, 9-tailed human pillar force, Uchiha, and Zhu Ludi of Kiba. This time, it was safe for Kiba to be destroyed. After Kiba is finished, this ninja world should be peaceful, right? Summary. Kiba is ruined equals peace in the ninja realm. A child who is an orphan and a commoner is something that no one will pay attention to or care about. So all the way up to Kyoto, Kagami was lonely. Occasionally, when she saw ninjas with Kiba unifying their vests, Kagami couldn't help but take a few more glances. Some ninjas thought it was the envy of a child, but little did they know that Kyoko Kagami's gaze was full of malice. Let you have fun, the ninjas of the iron-clad commoners flowing water. After reciting a few words, Jingxiangye also followed into the ninja school. Xia Nin's class. Jingxiangye looked at the signs on it, looked at the children inside, and gradually found the class led by Irika. The one who teaches the child is actually Zhongren, and Irika is even more of a war loser. More about learning theories and a small amount of ninjutsu. Upon entering the class, Jingxiangye noticed that everyone seemed to have arrived, such as Sasuke, who was entangled in the middle position. The young men are really a handsome group, and they can't help but want to go up and slap him. On the other side was Naruto jumping up and down, seemingly looking for a topic to talk to Sakura, but unfortunately, only Sasuke was seen by others. Secondly, there are people such as Zhu Ludi, Shina, and Hinata vaguely surrounding these individuals in the surrounding area. Secondly, there are some common children scattered around the classroom. Has the C. position been occupied by the main force of the future Kiba village? After all, Jingxiangye is an adult psychology, and even if it is a child's appearance, she has no interest in mixing with children. I found a corner and sat down. The classroom was quite lively. Thinking of staying with these children for 6 years, Jingxiangye felt like her head was about to explode. After some thought, it's better to endure for a while. Helping people catch cats and weed is also good, it's better than being forced to dance outside, right? Before long, Iruka came in and saw the chaos in the classroom, especially Naruto jumping up and down, which made him furious. The book in his hand fell hard on the podium. Not to mention that the children still look calm, they seem to be worthy of being children of a big family, each with very ninja-like qualities. As for Naruto, he is completely careless and not afraid of Iruka's book-throwing skills. On the contrary, Jingxiangye in the corner was startled and had a direct reaction to things like going to school, teachers, and getting angry. I cursed in frustration, but after all, in the world of nearly 20 years in my past life, I couldn't do without my teacher, so it's reasonable to have some conditioning. At this time, Iruka was not yet familiar with Naruto, and was particularly resentful of the 9-tailed fox that had killed his parents. Catching Naruto is like scolding, but unfortunately, I didn't hear any theoretical knowledge in the first class. Instead, I experienced a Chinese cultural heritage from a different world. Jingxiangye's mouth twitched, and the ninjas understood and were peaceful. When the hatred landed on their heads, it was really impossible to resolve it in a short time. With a drool output, Naruto froze and then fell silent. Under observation, it seemed that Hinata, and Lumaru all glanced at Naruto and paid some attention to him. I remember that during this period, and Lumaru were good for Naruto. Hinata remembered that he only encountered Naruto's help when he was 8 years old, so now he is more curious than other emotions. When watching animations, it's surprising that a child around 8 years old can develop a liking for it. Jingxiangye just feels like she's going to explode. What kind of child in a family around the age of 7 or 8 actually has this mentality? If you want to say that girls mature early, Jingxiangye acknowledges this. But don't you think it's too early to mature when you're 7 or 8 years old? I vaguely remember being in my teens and happily playing some special boy games with my friends. For example, urinating far away. As for what Lumaru should know now, the side teeth are transparent in the later stage, which means they have a simple personality and no thoughts. Sasuke on the other side only glanced a few times, he still knew Naruto quite well, and this attack power seemed insignificant to Naruto. After all, when I remember not going to school, the two of them got to know each other. Sure enough, compared to Kyo Kagami, who had already subconsciously sat upright, the people present seemed to have indifferent expressions. As for Naruto, the crown prince was quite mischievous when he was young. I really want to shoot it and show it to him when I grow up. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Preparation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The day's class ended, and Jingxiangye went home feeling dizzy. I didn't know anyone and didn't make new friends, so I went home alone after school. The only good thing is that my doesn't seem to require an endorsement bag, and there are no mathematical, physical, or chemical troubles in this era. Oh no, it's still a math problem. There are math problems that are hard to solve without throwing them away. I really appreciate you. I really want to give the third-generation old man a godsend and instill in him the concepts of advanced mathematics, such as quantum entanglement, to give him a good understanding. Let him see that he is not afraid to travel around the world if he learns mathematics, physics, and chemistry well. Take a look at the scientist from Orochimaru, that's not a good example. After patting my stomach, I was too lazy to eat anymore. The food at ninja school was not delicious, and I finished school very early in the afternoon. It's time to prepare for a ramen noodles meal. At least take some dry food and water with you. If you can't finish the task, you must live on, right? Secondly, the reward for failed missions is just a nuclear strike near oneself, and it may not necessarily kill oneself in one go. There are many people in the ninja world who can withstand nuclear bombs in the early stages, and it is still quite safe to hide in Kiba village at this stage. Not to mention the barrier, there are also various big shots such as Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Fuyue, followed by Zhu Ludi, Tuanzang, etc. If a nuclear bomb explodes, wouldn't it be a pleasure for two Susanoo to block in front? Anyway, a friend of the dead is not a friend of the poor, everything can be negotiated. If there is really no other way, then you must fall on your own head, and Jingxiangye also agrees. Unfortunately, there is no black soil here, otherwise I would have to hold on to black silk and lick it wildly, and be a scumbag before I die, stinky thoughts. He sighed with his own ill health, and Jingxiangye also came to Detongmu Yao ramen noodles store. Let me face Detongmu's fear. Just as Jingxiangye sat down, a bold figure rushed in. Uncle, a bowl of barbecued ramen noodles. Jingxiangye turned around and saw Naruto. Hey Prince. Naruto looked at Kyokyo, Kyokyo looked at Naruto, and neither side seemed to speak. In the end, Naruto couldn't help but say, what are you looking at? I'm looking at handsome guys, Jingxiangye said angrily. This sentence is confusing for Naruto, only a few people speak to him in the village. Usually it's Naruto. What's going on? Suddenly, someone comes to praise their handsome guy. This time, Naruto can't handle it anymore. He hasn't said anything for a long time. After a while, Naruto clenched and said, are you saying I'm very handsome? Jingxiangye extended her thumb and said, handsome guy. What kind of Sasuke in our class is not as good as you? At this moment, Naruto suddenly became shy. He had always been scolded by others, as if praising him was only a 3-generation-old man at this stage. That old man has a very bad mind, and praising him is just to shape Naruto's personality. Jingxiang is too lazy to comment on such things. Why? Naruto didn't understand for a moment, why did he praise himself? Are you really handsome? Jingxiangye smiled and said, because a person's life is really extraordinary, isn't being independent like this super handsome. This kind of rhetoric seems quite emotional, at least Naruto, who is still quite passionate, accepted this setting. Secondly, Naruto has always lived alone, and this statement is relatively easy to accept. My name is Naruto Vortex. Not to mention the way I extended my little hand, it had a hint of meaning. Jingxiangye. Jingxiangye twitched at the corner of her mouth and reluctantly shook her hand, saying, Jingxiangye. This name. Is there a higher chance of dying by killing Naruto online, or is there a higher chance of dying by a nuclear bomb exploding around? At this time, ramen noodles also came. Compared with barbecued Jingxiangye, they prefer ramen noodles with ribs. At this stage, children need to replenish their bodies, and dolphin bones are more conducive to absorption. Naruto, let's compete to see who will finish the meal first. Not to mention that ramen noodles is still fragrant when it comes up, Naruto is fooled by Jingxiangye. It's really a big bowl of noodles that has gone bald for several times. Looking at the slowly enjoying Kyoka leaves, Naruto felt something was wrong watching Jingxiangye slowly finish her meal. She said, so what did we compare? Jingxiangye smiled and said, there's nothing to compare, so you finish your meal first. When you have time in the future, I'll treat you to grilled fish. Goodbye, I'm going home. After that, Jingxiangye and Naruto waved their hands and left first, buying some food and exercising their Kowu projection. After all, that world is very dangerous, even if it's just a mess, I want to survive. Of course, after returning, Jingxiangye should practice well and experience the condensation of chakras from within her body. This kind of power is generated by the mind and body, of course, this is a previous statement, but later it becomes a divine tree. Or rather, this world is special. After the divine tree emits chakras, can humans generate chakras through cultivation? Regardless of the type, humans have chakras. Jingxiangye tried to cultivate and found that in the evening, she had produced a trace of chakras. According to this result, I am not really a genius. Perhaps at the age of Kakashi, I cannot compare to the half-disabled Kakashi. Kakashi, as the chakra unit of the ninja realm, is recognized by Kyoka leaves and highlights a standardization. But I really can't even get a card in this situation. No wonder there are upper and lower ninjas, some ninjas have very few chakras. But there are many people, and ninjutsu may have its strengths and weaknesses, but if chakras are massive, then general ninjutsu can also be very scary. Until the evening, Jingxiangye took a deep breath and didn't feel any stronger. Instead, he became even more hungry. This ninja world is not friendly to itself as an orphan, and the difficulty of becoming stronger is too high. By practicing ninjutsu on one's own for a lifetime, one may end up with some trash, so, lie flat, this cultivation can't last a day. Love who? Jingxiangye lay on the bed, her whole mind empty. History has proven that mediocrity is mediocrity, no matter where you go, you are still mediocre. I really want to hug a few paper people's thighs. I have already recognized the reality of my positioning in Jingxiangye and see if I can gain some benefits in the future world. Then I can rely on my foresight to hold on to my thighs, not to mention living a long life for 100 years, and live peacefully until the future, right? Anyway, big barrel wood. Damn it, this terrible future. After practicing, I became even more tired and fell into a deep sleep shortly after lying on the bed. The next morning, Jingxiangye woke up from hunger and got up to eat something casually before going to school. I can't help but go to this damn school. The ninja world is not friendly to the lower class at all. You should know that in later comics, the conversation between Zorana and Sakura seems to require Sakura to pay off her mortgage. Of course, this may be some bad taste, but it also indicates that happiness is not always present in prosperity. The development of the ninja world is actually more pathological and distorted, and in any case, Jingxiangye does not recognize it and will not believe that this development is correct. Arriving at the classroom again, it seems that everyone has arrived. Jingxiangye had just entered when he heard Naruto making a commotion. This kid's spirit was really good, as if seeing Jingxiangye coming in, he ran over excitedly. My good friend Kikayi, they have recognized me as Naruto Vortex, a more handsome man than Sasuke. Naruto's loud declaration seemed to gather everyone's attention. This made Jingxiangye, who always thought she had thick skin, unable to help but want to cover her face. The silent classroom suddenly burst into laughter. Jingxiangye returned to her seat expressionlessly. Since she had already lost face, she didn't mind anymore. Stop making noise, start class now. With the arrival of Irika, everything seemed to have calmed down. Jingxiangye expressed despair for the next few years of life in the classroom. Jingxiangye couldn't help but fall into a daze, unable to understand any of the chaos. I am a young man with a scientific perspective. Can you tell me how to practice ninjutsu? I advocate that those who do not believe and cannot be used by me are all superstitions, and those who are used by me are all lousy nyobi. Tomorrow. Lucky enough, tomorrow happens to be Sunday, so everyone can take a break. This is also the first time that Jingxiangye has traveled, and after finishing her studies today, she will go back to prepare. I don't have much money, but exchanging points for gold bricks in the main god space is very cheap. After a day of class, Jingxiangye walked out of the classroom in a daze. It's not that I don't want to become a top student, but that I really can't become a top student. Take a look at Sakura and Inoue on one side, they are definitely academic achievers. Secondly, there is Lumaru on one side. If you don't study, you will become a top student. Of course, Sasuke, Itachi, and Jishue are not considered geniuses in the eyes of Kyoko Kagami. They are at most geniuses in a certain field, and cannot be called omnipotent. At least Itachi and Jishue cannot even solve family problems. After much thought, the two of them decided on something that they were unable to solve on their own and could only rely on others, which was not in line with the setting of genius. Genius is always conceited. I can solve the problems I encounter, even if it is temporarily impossible, there will be my own way. Relying on others is ultimately relying on others, and geniuses will have a clearer understanding. At this point, Jingxiangye feels like she needs to PUA these people. If she can't do it, she can't find her own problems. Do we need to start from ourselves and find our own problems more often? Secondly, isn't it because I'm too weak? Aren't you too incompetent? Itachi is not very independent when facing Sasuke. How can he make decisions from outsiders when facing family problems in order to help the family or the village? And then he followed someone else's orders and destroyed the family. Simply put, Itachi felt that his strength was completely controllable for Sasuke, and he felt that he was too weak for the village. This kind of person, Jingxiangye, doesn't judge whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, just wants to say that PUA is also good at it. Secondly, as long as you don't harm yourself, everyone is a good person, and as long as you don't harm me, you are a bad person. No mistake, this is the concept of Jingxiangye. What Itachi does is that Jingxiangye only wants to eat melons, and even wants to eat melon seeds, even ordering 5 flavored melon seeds. Anyway, I'm not a member of the Uchiha tribe, so eating melons is a great hobby for humans, isn't it? Is Jingxiangye going to eat ramen noodles together? Naruto's voice came from behind. This should be the beginning of the month. He is still rich. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Temporary Partners. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No, I need to buy some ninja tools. For example, starting explosive talismans, bitter nothings, and military grain pills can all be purchased. Facing the world of biochemical crisis, although it doesn't have much effect, it feels quite empty without preparation. Naruto was a little disappointed, and Jingxiangye could see clearly. Next holiday, let's go to eat grilled fish. This time we have something to do, and when we get back from work, we will invite you to eat ramen noodles to pay our respects. The prince was very miserable at the early stage, and several bowls of ramen noodles were a good deal. Naruto became excited and said, "Do you need me to do anything?" Jingxiangye waved her hand and said, "Not really. I'll see you next week." After that, Jingxiangye disappeared. There were actually quite a few ninja shops in Mai, especially those opened by the Tian family, which were the small wealthy women who had made a good decision in the early stage. Of course, Jingxiangye is very poor, and can only buy 10 detonating talismans, 2 bitter nothings, and 5 military grain pills. Watching her monthly living expenses disappear, Jingxiangye let out a sigh. Prevent nuclear bombs from destroying Raccoon City. Thank you very much. Oh, the food at home is also prepared properly, and tools are placed in the bag on the body. The next step is to prepare for work, carrying a backpack and leaning against the wall. Jingxiangye has been chattering away. For a long time detected that the host is too weak, randomly select a ninja from the ninja realm as the host's teammate. This ninja can serve as a teammate to follow the host to various horror movies to carry out missions, and the host only has basic constraints on its partner's basic constraint 1. The host can decide whether a partner will reveal the main divine space in the main world. 2. The host cannot harm its partners, nor can partners harm the host. 3. The host can only provide verbal persuasion to partners and cannot command them. 4. After the end of 3 horror films, the host can decide whether to need partner assistance. Draw a partner. It seems pretty good, but after careful consideration, Jingxiangye feels even more uncomfortable. If we draw on those patients with secondary diseases, will we still play on our own? Secondly, not a single one in the entire ninja realm, including Konoha, can be considered as meeting one's own requirements. At least for now, whether it's good people who come from afar, or those organized by Shao, let alone those from other villages. After pondering for a long time, Jingxiangye didn't think who would be ideal as her partner, and secondly, Jingxiangye didn't want a partner. Isn't it good to sneak around and become stronger? With a ninja, wouldn't that mean taking your own life? If you are too strong, you may die even worse. As the plot changes, you may be killed by the other party as a demon. But if it's too weak, will it pull each other's hind legs? Ensure that the task fails so that 2 people can die together. Anyway, neither one is very good, and secondly, if there are ninjas outside of Konoha, come up and give yourself a fire escape. Who can handle this? Or even if you don't have a chance to face it directly, it really takes your life. Although we can't hurt each other, opposing each other is not a good thing. My advantage is that I have a wide range of virtual world enthusiasts, but I am definitely not a speechless owner. Familiarity with the plot is the advantage, and without it, one is actually not very good. As time approached 0 o'clock, a beam of light fell and Jingxiangye passed out in a daze. This hazy feeling made Jingxiangye uncomfortable, and then she felt her body shake, and, Yi Jun, please cheer up a bit. Then Jingxiangye opened her eyes and saw a pair of cataracts, although very cute. Oh. Hinata. Yi looked around and seemed to be in a church. Inside the church. I can go to hell with you. This place is good, this place is wonderful, and there are no bones left when people die in this place. Hinata watched as Kyoko Kagami woke up and whispered, I was washing and preparing to rest at home. I don't know why I came to this place. Do you know where this place is? Jingxiangye stood up and looked around, saying, this place is so good, it's no less than the legendary hell, isn't it? One careless move can lead to death. Jingxiangye never expected her teammate to be Hinata. How will she play next? Born in a church, isn't that enough to make oneself die? Secondly, Hinata's small transparency in the early stage, the small transparency in the middle stage, and the small transparency in the later stage. It's not a big mistake in the later stage, and all Hokage fans agree with this. However, having prepared a plethora of deceitful words, and even the deceitful words used when encountering various great filial sons, Hinata's help for himself is limited. Resident Evil 2, there are still many opportunities for oneself. For example, I don't remember very clearly, hell. Is there really such a place? Hinata became nervous for a moment, her face filled with emotions. My hands unconsciously clasped together. Jingxiangye nodded and said, it's about it. These places are very dangerous. Wait. Someone will come, we can pretend to be children. Don't talk about our ninja world, just pretend to be a child with some fighting skills. Okay. Okay, Yi Jun. The girl's voice was very low, without any mistakes, transparent. Jingxiangye doesn't have a watch, but she has a task panel. After a glance, it was still preventing a nuclear bomb from hitting Raccoon City. You don't need to be so divided. You can call me Jingxiangye or something like that, and I'll call you Hinata. I need you to take good care of me on the next journey. Hinata, I know some things about you, such as your father's cowardice. In fact, you are a strong and kind girl with a strong heart. So I know you are actually very strong, and we will take care of each other on the next journey. Although PUA little girl is excessive, Chanemo thinks praising a few words is not excessive. Secondly, by waking up earlier than herself from Hinata, it can be inferred that this little girl is far from being as weak as she appears. During this period, Hinata should have mastered white eyes, soft steps, double fists, and bagua palm. This robe with shuang quan is probably a type of basic palm technique, not the later ro quan shuang shi quan. Anyway, it can be concluded that Jingxiangye cannot defeat the little girl in front of her, and may even be pressed to the ground and rubbed fiercely. With the blessing of chakra, even with a small amount of chakra, I am definitely not a match for the opponent. Goodyi Jun. Okay, cool and humorous. As Kyoko Kagami knows, the two of them were hiding inside the church, and soon the door was pushed open. The little girl suddenly looked over nervously, and the two of them hid behind the chairs and looked towards the door. Then a black man and two women walked in with guns, and Hinata felt a little nervous for a moment. After all, three people dressed strangely walked in, holding something in their hands and facing inside. Without thinking, they knew it was a weapon. That person. It's so dark. There are people in the ninja world who are a bit darker, such as those from Tuing and Leiying, but this one in front of me makes people feel so dark. Jingxiangye glanced at Hinata and said, there will be even more strange things in the future. Just don't be afraid. Although the one in front of you is black, it's actually okay. The ones behind you are not people. Don't be so intimidating. The little girl, it did make Hinata's face turn pale. During this period, Huohua had already been born, and even in a year or two, Huohua would be able to compete with Hinata. Of course, because Hinata left his hand, it still indicates that Hinata is too kind. Three people cautiously walked in, and suddenly a man with a gun rushed out from the next door. Get out of here, this is where I found it. Not to mention that the main deity seems to have loaded language, so it sounds fine, but it's probably not a problem speaking. Listening as both sides seemed to start arguing, Jingxiangye also began to ponder what she would do next. As both sides calmed down, the female journalist seemed to have also started preparing for video recording. Jingxiangye and her companions also walked out, and suddenly two children appeared, which startled all four of them. Watching the firearm come up, Jingxiangye looked very spineless and raised her hand. Hinata didn't understand either, but he also raised his hand along. Seeing that it was two children, everyone also put down their handguns, and as the female party, Jill also spoke up, hey, it's two children, don't be so nervous. Looking at the two children who are only 6 or 7 years old, one seems to have cataracts, and the other is also thin and small, but the clothes are a bit strange. Where were you children who escaped from? Where are your parents? Jill spoke, as the two children in front of him looked clean and particularly cute. Especially the child with cataracts is likable. Jingxiangye immediately said, we're lost. We can't find our parents, Just as Jingxiangye was about to speak, the sound of the door opening suddenly came, and everyone looked over for a moment. Two members of the elite special defense team glanced at each other, and Jill immediately went to investigate. Kyoko Kagami and Hinata were also able to blend in with the crowd. These people subconsciously want to protect their children, which is also their advantage. As Jill went to the depths of the church to investigate, a group of people gathered here to be cautious. Hinata nervously scrutinized the person in front of her, unaware of what had happened and even unable to understand the situation. Suddenly, gunshots rang from upstairs, and everyone downstairs immediately became vigilant. The female journalist was the first to want to leave, grabbing her camera and wanting to run out. Unfortunately, at the moment of opening the door, I saw a large area of zombies outside. The sour feeling scared the people at the door, and at this moment, Hinata also saw it. Ninjas themselves are very flexible and have a relatively strong physique. At a glance, Hinata saw those mutated humans with twisted faces and bloodthirsty faces. The little girl's face turned pale on the spot and instinctively grabbed onto the hem of Jingxiangye's clothes. Of course, Jingxiangye also saw it very clearly. It used to be one thing to watch in movies, but now it's another thing to really see it. What a group of cute little ones. Jingxiangye pretended to be relaxed. Hinata nervously said, Yi Jun is so outrageous. Where are they cute? What's wrong with them? Jingxiangye whispered, "They have contracted a special virus, you need to be careful. Don't get bitten or injured by them, otherwise you will become like that too. Prepare for battle later, be careful." Battle. The little girl looked around, and under the pressure of her life, she was also well prepared, seemingly understanding why Jingxiangye said this was hell. After several people blocked the gate, the scene quickly quieted down. Everyone unanimously retreated to the center of the church. Immediately after, a monster with extremely fast movement appeared on top of the church, and Hinata instantly opened her eyes and looked over. Even without chakra, Hinata could see clearly what it was, but it was terrifying. The white people in the team couldn't bear it at first and turned their heads to run upstairs. Hinata glanced at it and said, "That thing is catching up." The black man stood on the side to protect the crowd, saying, "Let's not run around together. We can't catch up with them when we move so fast. In this open place, the thing has nowhere to hide and is relatively safer." Jingxiangye took out Kowu and handed it to Hinata, giving the girl a familiar weapon that gave her some confidence. Everyone was nervous in their hearts. At this moment, Jill also came down from upstairs and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the woman coming down from Jingxiangye. The black man reached out and pulled Jill in, and then the two of them walked along the nearby wall towards the outside. The licker, who suddenly landed on the edge of the church, had nowhere to hide, and the black man and Jill quickly opened fire. At present, I have only seen one, but in the memory of Jingxiangye, there should be many here. 3 adults and 2 children gathered in the middle, and then 2 lickers gradually gathered around. Jingxiangye cursed inwardly, shouldn't Alice appear at this moment? But unfortunately, the person did not appear. Is it because the plot has already been disrupted? But I didn't do anything myself, did I? Hinata. Bagua Palm, I'll cover you up. At this moment, I couldn't hesitate. Although this monster was terrifying, Hinata and Kikayi were both ninjas and relatively agile. Hinata let out a muffled groan and opened his white eyes to block in front of him. Jill and the black man didn't understand what the 2 children were doing, but their pistols were running low on bullets. But soon after, I saw the bigger boy throwing out 2 things with paper stickers in his hand. The monster seemed to not take it seriously, not one of them inserted, and one fell on the other's shoulder. The detonating talisman exploded, causing the licker's arm to instantly break and a big hole in their head. But this monster didn't have a big problem, and it ran towards Hinata. Life and death were at stake. Hinata had a faint chakra on his hands, and his body took a wrong step. With a slap from his bagua palm, he went out. The fierce licker was hit by a bullet, but was slapped by Hinata in the face, and his body suddenly rolled out. This slap was not too strong, it just tilted the licker a bit. But soon after, Jingxiangye threw 2 detonating talismans over, and with a loud bang, the licker was killed. Points plus 50. A group of people looked at the 2 children with an incredulous expression on their faces. What are those 2 pieces of paper that have such great power? Is it a piece of paper wrapped in explosives? The power is similar to a super large firecracker. My younger sister has loved martial arts since she was young and knows it a little. Even though she's young, I can't beat her, explained Jingxiangye. As one licker died, the other wandered back and forth in the distance, seeming to have lost its mind and unsure whether to go up or down. These monsters are not good at frontal combat and belong to covert attacks. But at this moment, a motorcycle suddenly rushed out, and a heroic woman rushed out. The motorcycle crashed into the licker in the distance, and then a beautiful float landed in front of everyone. Then one accelerated in place, and the licker on the other side also cooperated and landed in front of her. The woman accelerated and flipped her body in place, and the motorcycle collided fiercely. Then 2 bullets went over, and Kyokayi paid attention to Alice's condition. Did she activate the gene lock? And do you have the motivation to think? It feels like this. Her physical fitness is terrifying, and Kei Kagami suspects that even Sasuke, who graduated from the ninja exam, may not be a match for Alice in this state without using Chihiro. So must the T-virus be obtained. Quietly muttered, Jingxiangye had already given up on the main mission. 2 bullets landed on top of the fuel tank, then exploded and caught fire. The liquor received a boxed meal. Under the flames, Alice looked so handsome that she couldn't help but be attracted to Jingxiangye through her own experience. As for Hinata beside her, she looked even more stunned, her small eyes seemingly filled with admiration. After all, they are children and not combat-oriented. Then the liquor, who was hiding in the corner and watching it change, was easily taken out of her gun by Alice. The crisis for everyone seemed to have come to an end, and the church was in chaos, and the liquors seemed to be nothing more. Jill cursed and then asked Alice who she was. Alice didn't say much, just introduced her name. Then everyone planned to leave from this place, as the explosion just now had already attracted many zombies. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Within the school. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a moment of discussion, everyone left through the back door. This was a cemetery, and Jingxiangye felt a slight pain in her teeth. Even if she didn't know the plot, she knew that this place was not an auspicious place. But unfortunately, everyone chose this kind of place, where the child was covered in the middle, but had no right to speak. Jingxiangye noticed that the black man at the beginning seemed to be injured, and there may not be a good outcome later. But there was no other way, and while pondering, I realized that the situation seemed to have changed a bit. The 3 of them took out their firearms and confronted each other, leaving Hinata even more bewildered and unsure of why. He's infected. He needs to be dealt with, otherwise he'll turn into a zombie. You should know that. Alice showed no mercy and even spoke coldly. Jill heard this and reluctantly put down his gun. No, wait. Then I will handle it myself, not you making the decision. Watching the 2 people have a disagreement, as children, the 2 cannot say anything. Watching Alice chatter incessantly, Jingxiangye knew she was right, but the next second, a large number of staff rushed out of the ground and grabbed the female journalist's leg and pulled it down. Hinata was startled and easily jumped up and down on the tombstone. Jingxiangye quickly landed on the tombstone on the other side. Jill quickly grabbed the female journalist on the ground, and Alice dealt with several zombies barehanded. Even Jill was unwilling to be outdone and quickly dealt with a few. Faced with numerous zombies, Jill picked up his black companion, Alice grabbed the 2 children, and the female journalist followed behind and ran quickly towards the outside. Although Alice has a cold face, she is still quite kind from the bottom of her heart. Jingxiangye knew that the following plot seemed more interesting. Yi Jun, what are we going to do next? Can we still go back? Hinata whispered, feeling afraid of everything here. Strange people, all unfamiliar monsters, always wanting to eat people. The little girl's psychological resilience is not as strong at this age. Jingxiangye whispered, we'll probably stay for about a day before we go back, so there's no need to worry. The first 2 women praised each other, while the middle 2 children whispered. This combination is not safe. Kyoka Yoshiba has no ability to interfere with the plot, but it is safe until Alice and the evil god plan fight, so Kyoka Yoshiba is not in a hurry to escape. In her vague memory, Jingxiangye remembers that there is a T-virus here, and she plans to fight for it. Hinata. I'll have the opportunity to cut a wound on my arm with Ku Wu later. I can hold back the pain. It's good. In order to fight against the T-virus, Kyoka Leaf can only endure it, and she still has to act. Although Hinata didn't understand, she knew that Kyoka Leaves wouldn't harm her. After all, the 2 of them came from the same place. Everyone is still a student, and secondly, during this period, Hinata was still very naive, so he just nodded and didn't say anything. Listening to the conversation between 2 plot characters, the phone on the roadside rang. It seems like we're going to school to rescue that girl next, right? The plot is right, so Kyoka Yoshida did not participate in this matter, but waited for the plot to unfold on the side. As a child, it seems that one can only passively watch, right? After Alice agreed to the doctor's request, everyone also headed towards the school. At this moment when there was no rescue, Alice easily convinced everyone. Unfortunately, when they heard about the nuclear strike, everyone seemed quite angry. There aren't many firearms here now, and bullets are actually quite limited. It's not a problem for you to discuss how to face the next situation, but the problem is that we need weapons and food more. Firearms and bullets are limited, and secondly, your combat power is so strong that it would be even better if you had knives, daggers, and the like. Next is bound to be a struggle, and at this time, we need to find some food. Watching everyone discussing useless matters, Jingxiangye couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. Secondly, I am hungry. The scene quieted down, and the few people no longer argued. The argument was meaningless. Everyone was searching on the street because it hadn't been long since the incident occurred, and many of the food in the convenience store was fine. Hinata is eating canned sausages, not to mention the taste is really good. The girl was quite happy to eat, and Jingxiangye was filled with sausages and cola together. I also took the opportunity to put some in my backpack, and there is still some time left for the upcoming itinerary. So you need to be cautious. When everyone is around, Jingxiangye easily took off the sunglasses at the door. As everyone walked towards the school on the map, passing by a convenience store, they saw a tall monster in the distance. When the black people were still amazed by what it was, the vengeful evil god had already been machine-gunned. The black man directly took the boxed lunch and went offline, while Kyo Kagami pulled Hinata and dodged to the side. Revenge of the evil god. Run quickly. Alice seemed to be taking deep breaths and making some adjustments. Hinata also saw the monster that was over 2 meters tall. Monster. The fierce face and terrifying appearance made the little girl couldn't help but fear. But at this moment, Alice took out her weapon and jumped off the bridge. Her fearless behavior seemed to infect the girl. Hinata looked at Alice's behavior and seemed to sense something called courage. The few people in front of me were considered temporary companions, but this woman was not afraid at all. At this age, which is the period of shaping the three views, Hinata is more envious of Naruto's courage. Remember when Hinata was a little older, she didn't dare to fight back against those who bullied her. But now with role models, the strong dare to face stronger monsters for their companions, and this courage seems to have infected her. Of course, Hinata felt that atmosphere, but Kyoka Leaves only had a feeling of egg pain. Gil pulled the two of them to escape, running on the bridge while watching the monsters below clash. Looking at Alice's agile figure, Hinata was filled with worry. Don't worry about her, let's go first before we talk. She'll be fine. Jingxiangye turned around and ran towards the distance. Jill and others also found a car here. She started the car inside, while Hinata and Kyoka were letting out the wind. If there are zombies approaching, issue a warning. But when he saw the black companion turn into a zombie and come over, Jill was still breached. Hinata looked at the scene in front of her and felt very uncomfortable. The car started and another black man joined the team on the road. Looking at this strange combination, Jingxiangye found it a bit difficult. However, there should be someone else joining in next, and everything should be easier. The car rushed all the way to the school, and the police car at the entrance was damaged. Jingxiangye remembered that there seems to be a cute police dog in this school. Then everyone entered the school and watched as Jill was about to form a team to find someone. Jingxiangye quickly interrupted, "Don't search separately. The police dog inside the police car at the entrance just now was infected, which is a very dangerous thing. Secondly, there are some zombies in this school, and we need to wait." Jill frowned and said, "Wait. Wait for Alice." Jingxiangye shook her head and said, "Wait for someone else. Since that phone call can reach the city, I'm sure if there are still people alive who will come. Secondly, Alice's ability to come is also excellent. It won't take too long, just wait for a dozen or so minutes. As expected, while everyone was waiting, an ambulance drove over. The captain of the defense team seems quite strange, there are still people waiting here. After a brief exchange between the two sides, they entered the school. After a simple search, everyone found Angela, and the process was not complicated, be careful. Angela whispered, sure enough, a few police dogs were enjoying dinner. Jill immediately opened fire, and the two adjacent defense teams also immediately opened fire. Under the powerful attack of firearms, police dogs and zombies were easily dealt with. The female journalist who was supposed to be killed, as well as the members of the defense team, seemed to be surviving. Don't go over. There's a monster hidden behind the door, Hinata said, with two zombie police dogs behind the door. Although everyone didn't know why the girl in front of them could see, they still fired shots. Sure enough, the fierce dog rushed out, but unfortunately, the mortal body could not withstand the power of the firearm, and several police dogs were easily solved. But then 4 more heads rushed out. Jingxiangye pulled Ankila and Hinata, quickly avoiding to one side. 2 men shot wildly, but the female journalist was still solved with 1 shot. The bloody scene stimulated everyone and even more deeply touched Hinata's heart. Under the fluctuation of emotions, how much stronger did Jingxiangye find her chakra? Blood will eyes can be opened when stimulated, don't tell me that white eyes can also become stronger. Isn't this very unscientific? After all, it didn't happen, it was just emotional fluctuations, which also made Jingxiangye breathe a sigh of relief. Because of my joining, the system of the ninja world is definitely not just the original system. Perhaps Hinata will become stronger. Bigger. Ahem, more powerful. 2 members of the defense team were stimulated and fired at the wild dog. Under the fierce emotions, the shooting technique was not particularly accurate. Just as a police dog jumped down from above, Alice rushed in through the window. The long knife in his hand was raised, and the vicious dog was directly beheaded. Jingxiangye squinted her eyes and whispered in Hinata's ear, cut your arm. You don't need a big wound, just let out the blood. Although Hinata was afraid, he still had the consciousness of a ninja, and after several stimuli, he took advantage of others and actually gave himself a knife. Jingxiangye also found an opportunity to scratch a wound on her leg with Kowu at this moment. Alice seemed to be negotiating with Angela as well. Seeing that there were indeed 3 bottles of T-virus inside, Jingxiangye pondered for a moment before speaking up, can this antidote be used for my sister? My sister just had her arm cut by a zombie. The scene quieted down for a moment. In my memory, this T-virus antidote should be a more advanced G-virus. Or perhaps it is a relatively perfect T-virus, but no matter which one it is, Jingxiangye plans to take a gamble. Looking at the lovely and cataract girl in front of them, the 2 women couldn't harden their hearts after all. Alice asked Angela, can you give her one? Angela looked at Hinata, who was silent and a bit shy, and nodded in agreement. As for Jingxiangye himself, it would be best if he could fight him later, but it doesn't matter if he can't. Hinata is quite a good person, there is no guilt in deceiving the little girl. Right and wrong, good and bad, do not exist here in Jingxiangye. Jill watched as Alice injected Hinata before observing Kyoka leaves. These 2 children seem quite impressive, no wonder they can survive. Secondly, the 2 of them are also quite clever. The older brother is extremely independent, while the younger sister is particularly quiet. Although the 2 of them were afraid, they dared to take action when facing monsters. Especially when dealing with the liquor before, it was Hinata blocking the way. Now it seems that these 2 children are quite outstanding. Jill pondered for a while but couldn't help but notice that Jingxiangye's legs seemed to be bleeding too. You're also injured. Jill thought of his teammate and it won't be long before he turns into a zombie. Jingxiangye glanced at her and said, it's okay. Several of us have died along the way. Not all of us can survive. My sister is even more powerful, as long as she can survive. The female journalist, the fat uncle, and the police officer. Who can guarantee our survival? Alice frowned but said, whether we live or not, we must have the belief to live. This is also what we are currently doing, so. Alice disagreed and gave Jingxiangye a shot. Although Jingxiangye borrowed the other party's sympathy, Jingxiangye also plans to save them in the future. If there is a chance. Hiss, when you hit, at least say something, don't wait until you're infected to death. You're going to make it hurt to death. Jingxiangye's mouth twitched, and the woman seemed to be using force when getting the needle to strengthen her belief. Not to mention these few words, the tense atmosphere was slightly relieved, and everyone tidied up and prepared to leave the school. Next, we need to go to a certain rooftop and find the helicopter. Of course, everyone still needs to be threatened before they can escape. Jingxiangye glanced at the captain, who was lucky not to be bitten this time, but it seemed that he did not unlock the gene lock later on. In the world of biochemical crisis, it seems that only Alice is the perfect developer of the T virus. Of course, there will be G viruses and the like in the future, but they are clearly not available at present. Secondly, for the main quest, Kyoka Yashasada gave up directly, and let the suffering be borne by the ninja realm. Anyway, it just landed near the host. I hope the leaves are stronger, and I hope my beloved third generation can bear such pain. Of course, if unfortunately falls into the village of Kiba, then everything can only be blamed on Kiba's poor fate. Once again, everyone clearly relaxed after leaving the school. Next, just follow the professor's words and you can leave here. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Aren't these fireworks beautiful? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sure enough, after everyone walked out, the phone outside rang. Alice took Angela to negotiate, but Jingxiangye took out the water from her backpack and shared some food with everyone. The upcoming battles will be even more brutal, and timely replenishment of physical strength will be more beneficial for the upcoming battles. It has been several hours since then, and during this period, there has been a significant amount of fighting and consumption. As the negotiation was completed, everyone also replenished their energy, but as the car started, Jingxiangye knew that there was already a trap ahead. Hinata and Kika are relatively agile in their movements, making it easy for them to keep up with the group as they move forward. As Jill and Carlos easily took over the perimeter guards, everyone also arrived in the hinterland. Jingxiangye knew that the next battle was the key, and her actions were all under the observation of others. However, Alice was really bold. After coming down from the top floor, several guards were easily held in her hands. Hinata's eyes stiffened as she watched this scene, and Alice's fighting style seemed to have influenced her at that moment. The simple, rapid, and precise targeting of opponents demonstrates the beauty of combat. With the cooperation of a few people, they finally arrived at the side of the plane. Is this kind of large-volume aircraft used to transport vengeful gods? The monster over 3 meters tall, Kei Kagami suspected that she and Hinata could be trampled to death with just 1 foot. Hinata is not strong and is also a vegetable chicken. Faced with such a terrible thing, Alice still needs to fight head-on. Sure enough, as Alice began to reminisce, footsteps seemed to come from afar. The cockpit of the plane had already pointed a gun at Angela, and it was only then that Jingxiangye realized that she was ambushed here. I was not careful when watching the film myself, and coupled with the fact that it has been many years, I have forgotten the details. After all, it's not a classic of any teacher, and I can't remember the details. Sure enough, the next few people were all tied up, but Hinata and Kika were not worried. It is not difficult to cut open this type of tied strap using chakra. Of course, it's still necessary to pretend not to move now. When Hinata looked over, Kika signaled that it's okay. After all, they are just children, and secondly, they also have to watch Alice's battle. Jingxiangye looked at Hinata and said, Hinata. Next, you should see how Alice fights. You need to learn her way, or understand and become your own combat skills. Hinata looked at Kyoka and nodded earnestly as she watched Alice. Yes, Yi-jun. Along the way, Kyoka took good care of her. Of course, Hinata doesn't know that Kyoka Leaf just wants to cultivate it. Hinata has a good heart and potential. Just carry on with this soft and sticky nature, everything will become better. This teammate, who is not very independent and powerful, is what Jingxiangye needs. Eating soft rice. What's wrong with eating soft rice? What's wrong with the paper man's soft rice? There are no villagers here, no one can mock themselves. There are powerful female ninjas everywhere in the ninja world, so what's wrong with eating soft food? Anyway. Jingxiangye is not very interested in combat. After the vengeful evil god walked out, Hinata's face also became tense. This monster, with its teeth and claws outstretched in a fierce face, is huge in size and heavy in steps, which really scared a simple girl like Hinata. Previously, due to the distance, I only caught a glimpse, but now when I observe it up close, my senses are very poor. Yi-jun, this monster. Can Alice really fight it? Alice's waist is not as thick as her opponent's arms, and she doesn't know any ninjutsu. Can she fight it with just some physical skills? Jingxiangye continued, before there is an absolute difference in strength, skills are still very useful. Although Bagua Palm and Soft Fist are good, the rigid moves are destined to be too rigid and not adaptable. Fighting is never uniform, and opponents will not cooperate with your moves. So take a look at what's in front of you, summarize your soft fist, and come up with your own soft fist. PUA is really fragrant. Jingxiangye doesn't think there's anything wrong with the PUA little girl, after all, she has found a way to help her get the T-virus. As Jingxiangye's words fell, the battle ahead also began. Alice first circled and observed, and then used her sensitive speed to strike the vengeant evil god with joint techniques. Unfortunately, the other party's body mutated and their muscle tissue was exceptionally strong, even Alice's increased strength was only so. But this round of fighting was indeed very exciting, and Hinata watched it very carefully. She didn't understand what was happening in the world before her, but it was clear that something terrible had happened. As Alice obtained the weapon and used the steel bars behind to pierce through the body of the vengeful deity, it seemed to gradually regain its memory as the battle ended. Kyo Kagami squinted her eyes and said, Hinata. Prepare. The next second, Jill and Carlos broke through the restrictions, and at the same time, the vengeful evil god seemed to have begun to resist. Under machine gun fire, a large number of security personnel were quickly laid down. Jingxiangye watched as the person was about to board the plane and said, Hinata, take action. In an instant, the two of them broke free, and Hinata's white eyes opened. The girl's soft fist footwork was enhanced, as if she had arrived at the side of the plane in the blink of an eye. A punch landed on the opponent's abdomen, and with the support of chakra, an ordinary person could no longer stand up with just one punch. Jingxiangye grabbed the painless detonating talisman and threw it onto the nearby guard. At this point, the plane fell into the hands of two people, and he called on Angela to board the plane quickly. You know, the countdown to the nuclear bomb is only 5 minutes away. Jingxiangye watched the battle in the distance and covered the crowd as they boarded the plane. Fortunately, at this time, the evil god of revenge was extremely awesome, and it stopped most of the guards alone. The next second, the plane in the distance also took off, and Jingxiangye picked up the RPG that had fallen in the distance and threw it directly to Jill. Jingxiangye had been observing for a long time before, and these main characters seemed to not care about these firearms, but as a small person like herself, she naturally cared very much. At the same time, the zombie below seemed to break free from the guardrail. Everyone covered Alice in the distance and got on the plane, while Jingxiangye kept an eye on the sky. Time is running out, and there are at most 2 more minutes left. watching as the middle-level leader is pushed down and a group of zombies come up to gnaw on him. Hinata had never seen a zombie, and the scene before him was truly uncomfortable. Everyone on the plane looked down at the chaos below, while Jingxiangye kept looking ahead at the distance. At this moment, the sky was already slightly bright, and a small nuclear bomb with a small yield was fired towards this direction in the distance. Jingxiangye took out her sunglasses and handed them to Hinata. "Take it on, hold on to the handrail. Take a look at the fireworks below." Jingxiangye took the opportunity to take it on. Nuclear explosions are not common. Oh, they will be common later. When you go back, my still has one waiting for you. As everyone tightened their grip, a red light slowly rose from the ground, and a huge mushroom cloud instantly took off. The waves blew the plane like a rainbow, and a distant iron bar flew towards us. Jingxiangye has been paying attention all along. Just as the iron bar was about to hit Ankara, Jingxiangye flew up and kicked out. "Use chakras to protect your entire body. Remember to imagine the way chakras bloom, not necessarily as if they are turning back, but as if the airflow is surrounding you." After saying that, Jingxiangye picked up a backpack on her chest and placed a cushion behind her. The plane fell into the water, and only Alice let go of her hand to try to block Angela, but she knocked out directly. After everyone fell into the water, they quickly woke up one by one. Jingxiangye felt unbearable pain all over her body, but she still turned around to take a look. The few people who were still awake at the moment looked at Hinata, and the light blue chakra gently surrounded her, seemingly protecting her well. There is great terror between life and death, and naturally there is great favor. I can only say that I quickly understood and used chakra to protect myself. This scene stunned a few people. What is that light blue airflow? What exactly is the situation with this girl? But without time to ask, everyone quickly stood up to save the person. After a busy day, everyone also landed on the shore. Sister Alice. "Uncle Carlos, we need to go now," Kagami said as her main quest failed and she returned in 2 hours. In this horror movie, you will receive a T.virus antidote, followed by 50 points, and finally a nuclear strike. Aren't you coming with us? It's still a long way from the city center here. Alice spoke up. The action of Jingxiangye on the plane just now did give her a different feeling, saving her life. Jingxiangye shook her head and said, "We're leaving, Alice. They won't give up and will continue to arrest you. Even if that doctor is killed, he must solve the problem of the zombies at the top of the protective umbrella, otherwise the problem of the zombies won't be solved. Your kindness and kindness won't help you, so be ruthless when facing those people. You go quickly, the person pursuing the protective umbrella will soon arrive. You." After finishing speaking, Jingxiangye pulled Hinata away, and as they watched the two children leave, everyone didn't know what to say for a moment. Finally, Carlos and Jill took the lead, and everyone quickly left the place. "We'll be back in 2 hours, but this mission failed. There's no reward left." Jingxiangye leaned weakly against the big tree on the side, took off her backpack and handed Hinata some drinks. There were many gold jewelry inside the backpack. Hinata said in a daze. "Task. Was it assigned by Hokage?" Jingxiangye shook her head and said, "It's not the task assigned by Huiying, but the task here. You can understand that this time we're here, we have a task to do. The task is to stop the explosion just now. Unfortunately, we don't have much ability to complete the task, so naturally we won't receive any rewards." "Ah. I'm sorry Yi-jun, I'm too useless." Not to mention Hinata's personality, she's really soft and weak, making it hard to get angry. Jingxiangye shook her head and said, "Hee, it's okay. After all, I'm weaker than you, isn't it? There's a punishment for failing a mission. Just now, you saw that the weapon strike would fall around Muyi or in the village." "Ah. Hinata was confused, and she also saw the nuclear bomb explosion just now. The terrifying power and the city were destroyed in an instant. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Explanation and Facing. You are listening at novel full.audio. Jingxiangye doesn't know what state or mood Hinata is in. Anyway, the little girl is dull, The consequences of such failure should not be borne by oneself. It's not an exaggeration to share it as a teammate, right? What kind of weapon? If that weapon falls on the wooden leaves, the village will be destroyed in an instant, right? Hinata's voice became a bit firm. Jingxiangye nodded and said, no mistake. If it falls around the village, the wooden leaves will disappear in an instant. Do you feel very happy? Yi Jun, how can we be happy about this kind of thing? We need to tell Lord Huiying to evacuate the village first. Hinata clenched his fists and showed a strong attitude for the first time. Jingxiangye chuckled and said, think carefully. The basic issues here cannot be revealed, and if they are revealed, you will be directly wiped out. Besides, you cannot say it. Secondly, even if you say it, how can Huiying adults believe what you say as a child? You can't explain everything here, and you can't say anything. Hinata was stunned, and upon careful reflection, she realized that there really was such a statement. Sitting in place for a moment, feeling dejected, Kiba was about to be attacked by the same weapon as before. How could this possibly be stopped? Is the cost of not completing the task so huge? If the task is completed, won't Kiba be hit? Hinata asked weakly. Jingxiangye also nodded and said, indeed, if we complete the task, it doesn't matter. But how can we both fail this task, so we just gave it up? After all, our lives are very important, and the task doesn't really matter. Besides, Kiba is not without the ability to withstand that nuclear bomb. As far as I know, there are 2 people who should be able to resist it. But Huiying won't believe our words, and may even arrest me as a traitor and imprison me. However, this time it's not without gains, at least with the T.virus, I still have some points. Integral. What is this for? Hinata's depressed mood seemed to accept this statement. Jingxiangye checked and found out that she actually has 107 points. Points can be exchanged for anything. If you have enough points, you can exchange them for Blood Will Eye, Wood Done, or White Eye's Advanced Reincarnation Eye, or even some other things in the world. For example, the weapons that are just emerging in this world can be used to revive anything you want, and resurrecting the dead is not a problem. For example, resurrecting Ning Si's father. Can we resurrect the dead? Can Bai Yen still advance? Can Mu Dun also? Hinata is not a fool, she naturally knows a lot. Even if there is not much demand upon hearing these, I still want something. For example, my father always feels that his eyes are not strong enough. How good would it be if he advanced? Secondly, Ning Si has always harbored resentment towards his father's death, and it would be a good thing if he could be resurrected. Secondly, who doesn't know about things like Mu Dun? Jingxiangye nodded and said, of course, although these abilities are not strong, they require a lot of points. This time, the task only requires 1,000 points. Not to mention changing things, these points have little effect. Are these abilities not strong yet? That's Mu Dun, a powerful ability to pacify the ninja realm, and the Blood Will Eye is a very powerful ability of the Uchiha clan. Can White Eye also go further? Hinata felt a bit confused, but although she was smart, she was still a child. Jingxiangye stretched lazily and said, it's okay. Without points, we won't get anything. So take a break and we should return to the main god space. Hinata didn't say anything more upon hearing this, sitting not far away in a daze. She didn't know what she was thinking, sometimes with a worried expression, sometimes staring at Jingxiangye in a daze, and sometimes thinking about something that she couldn't help but feel distressed. In short, during these 2 hours, the two of them chatted casually, while Kyo Kagami watched Hinata's various emotional changes on her face, feeling particularly interesting. As time passed, the figures of the two gradually disappeared, and at the same time, the plane flying in the distance seemed to have just caught sight of this scene. Jingxiangye squinted at the distant plane, and then the two figures disappeared. I hope you won't come back to this world again in the future. In a blank hall, Jingxiangye saw a big ball of light. This thing is so bad that as the host, it cannot be erased, so it has become a punishment mechanism. Is this thing unreasonable? Secondly, as a host, one only has its permissions, and the rest of the permissions are estimated to be used for tasks. Look, that's the big light ball. You can go ahead and check it out, such as skills, bloodline, and these two. I remember there is an ancient warrior in bloodline or profession that is more suitable for you. Anyway, you can take a look. Then Jingxiangye also walked up to the main deity and said, is 100 points enough for both of us to fully recover? Jingxiangye said that 2 beams of light fell down, and then Jingxiangye only had 7 points left for integration. Very good, very intelligent. Want to complain? You can choose a room to practice here. If you don't want to practice, you can go out directly. As long as you think about going out, you can go back to your residence. Jingxiangye didn't want to practice. After all, she was very lazy. Hinata nodded and said in a low voice, I think it takes 3 plot points and 2,000 points to resurrect an ordinary person. 3,000 points if there is no corpse. And 27 plot points and 9,000 points if there is a reincarnation eye. If the guidance is activated, it's quite low, only 12 points. Jingxiangye smiled and said, it's great. We only have 1,000 points to complete a task, and we haven't gained anything like plot points. The difficulty of wanting this thing is too high, and there's basically no need to think about it. The difficulty of obtaining plot points is too high, and with our abilities, it's basically equivalent to seeking death. Hinata sat here in silence for a moment and said, the room here. Grasping the door handle, you can imagine what it looks like inside and what it can become. Then you can train inside or rest. You can only stay here for 1 day, and after that day, you can directly return home. When you go back, it's still your time to enter here. Take off the backpack and sit here in the lobby, feeling that this is also quite good. I have more exercise time than others, and secondly, I have some time to think. As a time traveler, someone who understands the details of the main deity, how could I have been so miserable in the first horror film? The first level gene lock should have been activated, but it only requires combat to manifest. The key is that this unlocking method is still weak and requires training. Secondly, I am not really someone with a brain. How can I get by in future horror movies? Fortunately, one's own mission can fail, and punishment is to endure in the realm of tolerance. Let's all suffer together. It's pretty good saying this. Hinata opened a room in the distance, and Kyoka-yi followed over. This seems to be the training ground for the Hinata clan, and Hinata stands here pondering. Is Yi-jun practicing together? Hinata looks quite energetic and even wants to practice together. Jingxiangye waved her hand and said, I'm just a mouth talker. It's okay to talk nonsense, but I'm afraid I won't be able to practice with you. I'm just a commoner ninja and haven't practiced anything before. There's no mistake. Jingxiangye doesn't want to learn any skills or steps because these things feel very limited. It's better to refine chakras. According to Jingxiangye's previous life, after possessing an energy system, individuals should exert their energy as much as possible instead of exercising something useless. Short-term techniques may seem useful, but they may not make sense. Under the blessing of Yi Kai, simple punches and kicks were incredibly terrifying, and at that time, no skills were explosive. Hinata stood still and began to ponder, recalling Alice's skills during the battle. Of course, there is also Alice's state, she is mainly imitating that state. But for a long time. Gurgling. My stomach was hungry. The girl's face turned slightly red and said, I can't do it anymore. I'm starving to death. Jingxiangye knew that Hinata was a big eater, and she also knew that this little girl might have had a hard time eating when she was young. Thinking about it this way, there seems to be a reason why she is weaker. After all, the purity of the white eye is very high, and it requires huge energy to support its evolution. Therefore, if you can't eat enough, do you have purity without energy support? After thinking about it, Jingxiangye spent the last 7 points and exchanged the remaining 2 points for gold bricks and food. Although it only has 5 points, it is very valuable. Just stir-fry at home, and there is a large bowl of rice. There are 20 portions of stir-fry, and each person has 1 bowl of rice. If you're hungry, just show off. After exercising, go to bed for a while. Watching so many dishes laid on the ground, not to mention that Jingxiangye is also hungry. Hinata's face turned slightly red and she said, then I'll start. As she spoke, the girl had already filled herself with a bowl of rice, making 2 out of 3. Half of the bowl of rice was gone. It can be seen that the food here is very delicious, and taking a sip of Jingxiangye can be considered top quality. The points here seem to be very valuable, so you need to calculate them carefully when you spend them in the future. But is it already half missing? Jingxiangye twitched at the corners of his mouth. He knew that Shida was the king of big stomach and that Lamian noodles could do 46 bowls of such things. You should know that it was noodles. It seemed to have noticed Jingxiangye's gaze, and Hinata's face turned slightly red. Yi Jun. Jingxiangye waved her hand and said, I know why. Your white eyes are very pure, and it takes a lot of energy to conceive and nurture such a pair of eyes. If you don't eat enough, your body will have a heavy burden, so eating more is normal. If you eat less, the speed of natural strength will slow down a lot, even if you go back. You need to eat more. After returning this golden brick, I'll give you a little more. If you're hungry, I'll eat more. Forget it, I'll exchange it for money later. I'll give it all to you. The stronger your strength, the higher the likelihood that we'll complete the task. If we can't complete the task, there won't be any rewards, and there will be punishments every time. While chatting and eating, it seemed like the appetite of 10 people was simply eaten up by Hinata. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Nuclear bombs falling around Woodleaves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After finishing their meal, the two of them rested for a while, and Hinata started training again. Coincidentally, Kyoka Leaf also began to extract chakras. I don't know if it's because I got infected with the T virus, but this time the chakra extraction speed is very fast, and even the quantity is quite large. Of course, it's just a comparison to my previous self, and it seems that Hinata is undergoing a kind of thinking training. She pondered in place and then wandered around, looking very powerful anyway. Jingxiangye feels that this is a common sense cultivation, and she is already changing her previous way of fighting. Learning new combat methods is definitely much more powerful than following a routine. For example, Naruto doesn't have any tricks, it's just a self-learning combat style. Taking advantage of one's own strengths and gradually adapting to one's own battles. As for the final meal of meatballs thrown randomly, it looks very scary. In Hinata's words. It's very big. After sighing, Kyoka no longer cared about Hinata's training and lay on the side feeling confused. I feel like I'm about to fall asleep, and it takes about 7 days to enter a horror movie. If you have points, you can go back to horror movies in the past, and consider these when you are wealthy in the future. Yi Jun. Hinata ran over and looked at Jingxiangye, who was feeling confused. In fact, she was also very tired. After all, on a night in a horror movie, I was basically on edge. As soon as I got full, my spirit naturally relaxed a lot. Jingxiangye shook her head and said, "No, I need to go back and rest. I need to take a nap tomorrow. But maybe it's just in my dream. I'll talk about it when I go back." Hinata whispered, I found a way to tell my father." Jingxiangye looked at the panel and it seemed to have been updated. After the host returns to the main plane for 5 minutes, the small-yield low-radiation nuclear bomb will land in the Death Forest to the west of Kiba. We hope the host will work hard to survive and complete the mission. Jingxiangye's face turned ugly in an instant. After we go back, the nuclear bomb will fall deep in the Death Forest within 5 minutes. According to the distance of about 10 miles, our wooden leaves will not be greatly affected. If we open the barrier, we will not be in danger. But we can't explain the reason, and 5 minutes is not enough to open the barrier. Besides, not all the good people in the village are good, so Hinata just needs to protect herself and her family. After going back, Kyoka Yoshida plans to go directly to the river outside Hinata's side and said, "I will go find my father." Jingxiangye nodded and said, "Be careful, don't say anything that shouldn't be said, otherwise I won't be able to complete the mission in the future. It will be even worse. I don't know if it's because Muyi is even more miserable, or if it's because of herself." After Hinata nodded, the figures of the two gradually disappeared. After returning to the house, Jingxiangye suddenly stood up, grabbed her fishing rod, and ran towards the outside. As a child, being caught by the dark side in the middle of the night is always a troublesome matter. However, at this point it was obvious that no one was checking, so upon looking at the map, the Death Forest seemed to be in the southwest, as if the south was the territory of Root. "Oh my dear Tanzong brothers, the dark root of my, I hope you're not around." After muttering for a while, Jingxiangye walked towards the vicinity of my Huiying Rock without hesitation. There seems to be a cave over there, absolutely safe. In fact, the Death Forest here is more of a shockwave after a nuclear bomb explosion, and if there were any air raid shelters, there would be no problem at all. But most of the buildings with wooden leaves are wooden buildings, which are not resistant to shock waves. I am still a child and very weak. Once I am smashed, I will definitely stand still. Grasping the fishing rod and basket, pretending to be going fishing, she walked along the way to the underground cave behind Huiying Rock. Unfortunately, shortly after walking, Jingxiangye met an impossible person. At this moment, Kakashi seems to have just come out of the Hokage office building and happened to bump into Kyoko Kagami's face. "Who is your child from? You don't sleep at night." Kakashi looked at the child in strange attire in front of him, seemingly a child from a commoner's family. "Oh, Master Ninja, I'm going fishing and I'm hungry." Pretending to be tender is too despicable, and pretending to be foolish. Kakashi frowned and said, "Where are your adults? It's not time to go fishing now." "Dead. I died while carrying out the mission. I don't have the money. I can't afford too much food." Kakasidon froze for a moment, unsure of how to reprimand. He could only say slightly softly, "It's too dangerous at night, hurry back and rest." He took out a few banknotes and handed them to Jingxiangye. During this period, Kakashi should have reported on the situation of Uchiha, as it seems that Uchiha rebelled more than half a year ago. Oh no, it was probably due to a disagreement with Hokage and he was killed directly. There was no time for rebellion and they were suppressed directly. The fighting power of the Erwuzi Yuji Boitachi is unparalleled. When slaughtered, the people of the tribe do not hesitate, and any biological father or mother will be killed by the Lord. As a bystander and a lowly poor person, Jingxiangye just wants to say that she killed well. All the big families died for me, but unfortunately the ape flying clan didn't die much. It's just that Asma also died in the later stage. It can only be said that the heavens have done evil and cannot live. Anyway, I'm at the bottom and I don't have the ability. I can only praise myself, otherwise what else can I do? Jingxiangye picked it up and said, "You can have a full meal now, it's great to have money." He glanced at the panel from the corner of his eye and counted down. 10 seconds. Kakashi saw the happy look on the child's face, and it seemed rare for him to relax his brows. Perhaps this is the meaning of the existence of the village, right? Protect the weak and enable them to live a good life, right? At the same time, at the moment when Jingxiangye returned, Hinata also appeared in the bedroom. Hinata was stunned for a moment and immediately ran towards Hinata's bedroom, but as she approached, her footsteps slowed down a lot. She hadn't actually figured out how to speak yet, and for a moment she didn't know how to say it. Is it Hinata? As the clan leader, Hinata's strength is also that of the elite Weno, perhaps just a bit inferior to Hokage's. As he spoke, Hinata, dressed in a nightgown, walked out and couldn't help but frown as he looked at Hinata. There are many bloodstains, scratches, dirt, and filth on Hinata's clothes. It looked like a battle was going on, and I rushed over in a hurry. Is there an enemy? As he spoke, he became vigilant, but he did not feel the enemy, let alone the traces of battle just now. Hinata took a deep breath and said, "Father, there is still 2 minutes left for Konoha to be in certain danger, and it will affect this place. Father, hurry up and call the tribe members, and there will be fireworks." Hinata frowned subconsciously, but looking at Hinata's serious expression, he seemed to have accurately predicted the time. After looking for a few seconds, he immediately said, "Guardians. Immediately summon the tribe to respond. Hinata, bring the fireworks over. Let's go to the backyard." As he spoke, the guards immediately went to gather the tribe members, while Hinata also pulled the fireworks. The little girl followed Hinata with a bewildered expression and walked all the way to the backyard. Not long after, a series of upper ninjas such as Hinata Higashi, Hinata Nishimitsu, Hinata Tokugawa, and so on came to the backyard. Even Ning Ci, who had a cold face, didn't understand why the clan chief summoned most of the clan members to come and see that the fields and fireworks seemed to have arrived. Some family members also rushed over from afar, and he didn't understand what had happened. Mississippi, what happened? During this period, Ning Ci's relationship with Hinata was very bad, and he naturally didn't speak politely. Hinata was taken aback for a moment, but didn't expect Ning Ci to ask herself, "Brother Ning Ci, there will be danger later." Ning Ci frowned and looked around. Is it still dangerous to gather so many people? Secondly, as a separate family, protecting Hinata is also my responsibility. I will protect you. Hinata stood aside and counted the time, about a little over 2 minutes. According to Hinata's words, the danger was about to come. Where did the danger come from? Is this a wooden leaf? Looking at my daughter's attire, it was obvious that she had been attacked, which led to her current disheveled appearance. Everyone. Before they could say anything, everyone saw the west and a bright light rose up, even at night, with a piercing sensation. Fortunately, everyone is blind and their senses are much better. Immediately after, a fiery red mushroom cloud rose into the air, and a strong shockwave carried a hot wind spreading towards the surroundings. The trees and buildings on the periphery are as fragile as paper, easily blown away. As even the distant Hinata family to the west, the outer houses were directly destroyed by the force of the impact at this moment. A large amount of wood rushed towards this side, and Hinata shouted loudly, "Everyone, use Akira." As he spoke, the elite in the front row put up their ninja and immediately launched Akira, blocking the front of Hinata in an instant. The force of the shock wave came to a halt here, but everywhere it caught the eye was already shattered. A large number of houses only have their foundations left, while the rest have been mostly destroyed. Fortunately, everyone gathered together and used the opportunity to block the impact in advance. If it were in sleep, countless people would die in their dreams. Immediately go outside for rescue, Dijian, lead the team to go. Leave the rest of Chutian to rest. Then the crowd dispersed, and at this moment, the village of Kiba was filled with mournful cries, with half of the village's houses overturned from west to east. Where did you learn about the danger, Hinata? And there are traces of fighting on your body. Who are you fighting with? Hinata asked seriously, feeling that something was wrong everywhere. In the evening, Hinata had a meal and practiced his martial arts for a while before finally washing and resting. The whole process is basically self-occupied, there is no free time at all. Hinata looked into the distance and was a bit worried about Kyoka Yoshiba. Father. I can't say it. If you say it to me, I will die, she said. Is it a spell? Hinata frowned and looked at Hinata, but Hinata seemed to be saying no. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Situation of all parties. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It cannot be said that if someone says I will die, or I cannot check, the person who checks will die. In any case, anyone who is aware of this news will die immediately. This includes me. And others. Hinata was still about to speak when Hinata interrupted her. Don't say anything more. If Hokage asks, just leave everything to me. You can go back and rest, too. It can be seen that Hinata is very tired, and his whole body is in a forced state. Hinata watched Hinata go out, pondering in his heart, but he had no clue at all. Because Hinata was just one less time to wash up in front of him, how could there be so many problems with so little time? Is this spatial ninjutsu? But it doesn't seem like it's true. Those who know time and space ninjutsu can't escape at all. Hinata is struggling here, but there are still people who are even more distressed. Nature is Jitsuan Tuanzang, the closest forest to the west. Before everything happened, he was reading news about the recent gathering of Yukibo weasels. Faced with the increasing dissatisfaction with the village, Yuzibo, Tuanzang has played an excellent role. The approaching night is more suitable for people who hide in the darkness, especially in the quiet of the night, which is more suitable for thinking. Holding the intelligence in his hand, pondering that Yuzibo should be almost unable to resist it, right? We need a suitable opportunity, as well as some support from public opinion. He has been trying to find a way to alienate the villagers and Yuzibo recently. Due to mastering the security forces, Yuzibo is not favored by the common people in the village. After all, violent institutions themselves are a manifestation of power, and ordinary people are naturally afraid when they see them. But the fear of these people was of no use, nor did they make Yuzibo's strength stronger, but invisibly made Yuzibo feel very powerful. The negative emotions of arrogance, and arrogance spread throughout Uchiha, making them think they are very powerful. Except for those few people, the combat effectiveness of the entire Uchiha is only average. Tuanzang analyzed the report for a long time and pondered it for a long time, feeling that it was a good way to distance Yuzibo. After thinking for a long time and getting tired, I got up and tidied up. I walked out of the basement at the base and took a look at the distant Huiying Rock. There seems to be lights in that place, and it seems that even the old monkey can't sleep, right? Turning his head, Tuanzang saw a white light rising from a distance in the death forest, followed by a heat wave mixed with weak nuclear radiation rushing towards him. Tuanzang was stunned. Has an enemy attacked? Immediately after, an orange-red fireball rose into the sky, carrying a mushroom cloud that was so bright at night. In the forest, thorns with sharp edges came towards the group, followed by a slight discomfort in the body. Wind escape, vacuum wave. A large gust of wind carried the shock wave, but even a small yield nuclear bomb was still a nuclear bomb. The wind he had just blown out was instantly erased by the impact force, and instead, due to reverse reasons, a stronger impact force spread over. Watching a large amount of stones and wood fall over, Tuanzai's face changed. At this moment, the dark area behind immediately used a soil flow wall, blocking a large amount of debris. But then a stronger impact directly destroyed the earthen wall. The dark behind immediately covered up the retreat of the group later. More than a dozen people used the earth flow wall together, which blocked a large area of debris. A large number of dark forces rushed over, including Uchiha Itachi. When he saw the explosion in the distance, he was completely stunned. Did someone ambush Kiba? Afterwards, he quickly came over and immediately assisted in defending. After more than 10 seconds, the shockwave disappeared, and Tuan Zhang's face darkened. Go ahead immediately to check what happened and notify Huaying to protect. After speaking, he looked towards the Huaying building and thought for a moment before rushing over. Afterwards, the two elders also rushed over and glanced at each other as they arrived at Huaying's office. It's just that this office is a bit lively, with Flagwood Kakashi and an unfamiliar child holding a fishing rod and basket. This eerie scene made the three of them a bit confused, so Sandemo glanced at Kakashi and said, "First, send the villagers to the underground cave." Kakashi immediately pulled Jingxiangye and disappeared. At this moment, Sandemo spoke up and said, "It was confirmed just now that the enemy was not attacking, and the secret forces have already gone to investigate the situation. We will have to wait for more details." 3 people nodded and sat here waiting. Soon, people from various families also arrived, and then Lu Jiu also brought people. At one point, a large number of people gathered inside the Huaying office building, and the last 3 generations had to let the others go back first. "We will announce it tomorrow before leaving," Hinata said. When danger approached, I felt an abnormal feeling coming from afar. I wasn't sure what was going on at the time, but when I felt it, when I opened my white eyes, I saw a burst of white light, and then I felt like I couldn't see anything. Sandemo nodded and said, "The dark side also saw white light at that time." Tuanzang also said, "At that time, I was planning to go back and rest, but when I was preparing, I saw white light and the impact of the explosion." Several people spoke one after another, seemingly almost identical, which actually led to a lack of information among the 3 generations. He thought the Japanese football team had also seen and reacted. "All right, everyone go back first. The dark side has already conducted an investigation." The whole village was in chaos, but most of them were just injured, and the unlucky one was that civilians were injured and killed by smashing. In short, many people were injured and few died, but the village suffered severe losses. This night was extremely restless, with 3 generations of eyes not resting and unable to understand what had happened. Secondly, spies from various villages secretly began to transmit messages back, and the first to receive the news was naturally Orochimaru. Looking at the text on the intelligence, he was completely stunned. He didn't know what had happened, but it seemed like someone had launched an attack on Kiba. This news only made him pay a little attention and didn't care. The biggest reaction afterwards was in Yunin village. Their first reaction was that Kiba had developed a new weapon and had already started testing it, which was successful. A few years ago, they successfully forced Kiba, and there was naturally hatred between the 2 sides. Is it reasonable for Kiba to study weapons afterwards? Is a weapon comparable to tailed beast jade more reasonable? Is it reasonable to experiment with the effect? It seems reasonable to invest in Yunin village in the future, right? So Yunin village must gather information to determine Mai's new weapon and what Mai wants to do. Secondly, after learning about it, Yunin village also sent a large number of spies one after another, hoping to gather intelligence. Such a powerful weapon really scared several small villages in the surrounding area. The strong vibration felt like a forest had been wiped out, which proved that Mai had a threat to eliminate any village. Isn't it quite strange? It looks like an explosion. It's a bit like the result of countless detonating symbols exploding. But isn't this power right? The ground is sinking so deep, and the destructive power is so great. How many detonating symbols do we need to have this effect? Is Woodleaves so wealthy? A man wearing a wooden mask and black background with red clouds appeared at the edge of the forest. He seemed to have walked out of the void, standing on a distant branch, observing the situation here. The innermost part has almost crystallized. There is also an indescribable feeling inside. As long as you step into your body, it feels like you have been invaded by a foreign energy. Fortunately, I have the energy of Mu Dun, otherwise I would have become those people too. Yu Jibwa stood with Soil in the distance, looking at Mu Ye's dark side. After delving deeper, someone else's body softened, and then began to bleed from their facial features. Finally, their body felt as if it had softened. That kind of radiation is weakening, at a very fast speed. Another figure emerged from beside Dai Tu, with a voice filled with a sense of melancholy. Oh. It must be very refreshing inside. Do you want to try it out, Dai Tu? You shut up, you're absolutely speechless. With a dirty expression, it couldn't help but look ugly. When did Mu Yi have such a powerful weapon? This power is stronger than the tailed beast Jade, but fortunately, it has divine power. Has He Ju not heard any intelligence about this weapon? Dai Tu glanced at He Ju next to him, and he seemed quite confused. Black Ju shook his head and said, now the Woodleaves are also in a mess. They seem to be investigating what happened here. According to the words of a few people at night, it seems like a danger from afar, but what exactly is unknown. So it seems that it's not a weapon made by Kiba, but several nearby ninja villages thought it was Kiba testing weapons and came to ask questions one by one. This time. What should Kiba do? Black Ju seemed quite excited. Dai Tu thought for a moment and said, go and pass on the intelligence to Changmen. Let him be careful. He is still quite critical until the plan is successful. There's nothing worth paying attention to here, it's not a weapon from Konoha. Let's investigate the surrounding area. After speaking, the figure with Soil disappeared directly. Afterwards, the news was transmitted to Yuin village, and Xiaonan immediately read the intelligence and then informed Changmen. At this moment, Changmen has a mysterious confidence in their own strength. No one can threaten God. Let's investigate the black market from an angle. It would be best if we could purchase this weapon. Only a sword hanging above our heads can eliminate the shadow of war. This weapon is very good and can already threaten the rule of a great country. Xiao Nan looked at the intelligence and said, it was transmitted by Baiju. It seems that the current Woodleaves are a bit different. It's okay, we're accumulating strength, and in the end, I'll end everything. After saying that, Changmen closed his eyes and rested. In this physical state, he was actually quite burdened. Under his emaciated physique, all the energy of his body was supplied to those eyes. If it were for ordinary people, they might not have been sucked into a corpse by those eyes. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Experiments. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Jingxiangye is very beautiful at this time. I don't know if it is heaven's will. This happy Lamian noodles is still in normal business. With the help of Kakashi, Jingxiangye can finally indulge in a delicious meal for free. This pile of money is quite substantial. Even if Hinata comes, they can enjoy a delicious meal. Now that the village is in such a situation, we can't go fishing, so I'll treat you to Lamian noodles. Looking at the excited Naruto, Jingxiangye was helpless. Now the village is undergoing rescue and reconstruction, and a large number of houses have been destroyed, making the lives of civilians even more difficult. However, Naruto's residence seems to be fine. I wonder if it's because the quality of the house is too good. To outsiders, the two children seem quite carefree, but little do they know that one is the trigger and the other is truly carefree. At this moment, the door curtain was pulled open and Hinata seemed to walk in. Hinata, who has not experienced the snow incident, now seems to have only a classmate relationship with Naruto. Ah, Yi Jun, Naruto Jun. Hinata quickly greeted, showcasing the etiquette of the young ladies of the big family. Jingxiangye looked at Kaida and said, take a seat when Kaida comes. Do you want to compare with Kaida who eats more ramen noodles? I will treat the winner to barbecue next time. Although it is said that when you eat barbecue, Jingxiangye will probably bring Naruto with you. And the bowl you are eating now also counts. Thanks for the sponsorship of Kakashi Old Railway. Naruto looked at the thin and weak Hinata and patted her chest, saying, I'm done with the grilled meat. Uncle is giving me a big bowl of barbecued ramen noodles. Naruto immediately ordered a bowl. Hinata sat up from one side and whispered to Kagami, Yi-jun, isn't this too good? Naruto has sharp ears and says, what are you saying? How could I possibly lose? Shao Naruto is very powerful, he can eat 3 bowls, Uncle Yale said with a smile. Hee, I'll let you know later. The woman who even tears when Ding Ci sees her ramen noodles came quickly. 3 people showed off. Although Hinata eats quickly, he doesn't appear rude. As for Naruto and Kyoka leaves, they don't look good to eat. A large bowl of ramen noodles. Naruto went into his stomach with a puff and a plug, but when he turned around, he found that Shida seemed to have started the second bowl. What's going on? Naruto stopped. 2 large bowls of noodles were already full. But it seems that the other side has just started, with an elegant demeanor. The second bowl quickly enters my stomach. Subsequently, in the 3rd bowl, 4th bowl, 5th bowl, and 18th bowl, Naruto gradually became surprised, stunned, lost, and unable to understand from the initial dissatisfaction. With his current wisdom and experience, it is really incomprehensible that how could Akita, a small person, fill so many ramen noodles. Naruto even crouched under the chair, wanting to see if there was a rice bucket below. Uncle Yale laughed and said, Naruto, you're going to lose. It seems you can't underestimate your opponent, right? Maybe we can hold a big stomach king competition. Coincidentally, the village has also been damaged, and we need an event to motivate the villagers. Naruto pulled his face and couldn't understand, as he was a dull and bewildered person. Thank you, uncle. Hinata stopped and was almost full. If you eat it, it's okay, but Naruto clearly can't accept it. After the 3 of them walked out, they looked at the afternoon and said, Yi-jun, Naruto-jun, I need to go back. At this moment, Naruto had somewhat recovered. Goodbye to Hinata. As he watched Hinata walk away, Naruto said, how could she just eat so much? He felt a critical blow to his soul. Perhaps the food and savings at home were not enough for him to have a meal, right? Jingxiangye patted Naruto's shoulder and said, don't be surprised, little brother. There will be a lot of sweating in the future. Alright, Naruto, I'm going to practice. Practice. Naruto didn't understand. Jingxiangye smiled and said, if you exercise your body, for example, how can you beat Sasuke without practicing? That stinky guy. Naruto nodded in agreement. It was a stinky guy who said, then let's practice together. Jingxiangye's mouth twitched and she said, your cultivation is different from mine. You have a strong body, so I can only learn how to use chakras to walk on water, climb trees, and so on. I can only exercise my body. Jingxiangye's chakra amount is a little more than before, which can be basically ignored. Is it like this? Naruto didn't understand. Jingxiangye waved her hand and said, so you also need to practice well, and the big guy inside your stomach. It's not a monster, it will be your most reliable friend. After speaking, Jingxiangye also turned around and left. In horror movies, as long as she didn't die, the mission would fail. Anyway, punishment is to be borne by all the ninja realms, so when I think about it, Jingxiangye doesn't have much guilt. Naruto couldn't help feeling a little disappointed as he watched Kyoka leave. How many more friends do you seem to have since childhood? Whether it's Hinata, who competes with herself, or Kyoka, who treats her to dinner, it seems like they are all her companions. Seems no longer lonely. In the sealed place deep inside his body, Joey squinted his eyes as he watched Jingxiangye leave. Finally, it naturally heard that the big guy in the belly of other people should be talking about themselves. What else do you say? You are the most reliable friend? That little ghost had no idea how cruel he was. He could kill many people with just one paw. After eating and drinking enough, Hinata also returned home, and the afternoon was naturally the time for practicing martial arts. Sitting in the room, Hinata reminisced about the confrontation between Alice and the vengeful deity, one powerful and one agile and ever-changing. This is where one can leverage their strengths, so should one also adopt a nimble style for their small body. Bagua palm, Rochuan, and footwork all require direct confrontation to a large extent. Once the opponent is stronger than oneself and stronger than oneself, a frontal confrontation is no less than seeking death. So, should we focus more on speed and make improvements in soft boxing? In his mind, there was a vague idea. In that space before, Hinata had some thoughts. Now sitting here pondering, the idea is gradually taking shape, but does it require a qualified opponent to practice? Maybe we can go find Yijun. But Yijun seems so weak. Hinata walked in and watched her daughter sit there pondering. What was she thinking? After finishing today's work, he also came to see his daughter, and just before resting, he came to guide her in her cultivation. Father. Hinata nodded and said, "It's been a long time since I've practiced against each other. Did you give it a try today?" The two of them were still bowing to each other, and Hinata stood still, gesturing for Hinata to start attacking. Hinata took a deep breath and said, "Father, I'm here." Surprisingly, it wasn't the traditional soft fist opening, but a lunge that rushed over, then his body shifted sideways before the soft fist struck. The speed was indeed much faster, but the Japanese football team slapped it in the air. But at this moment of contact, Hinata's figure paused and he grabbed it with both hands. Hinata's palm seemed to pass it over. This made Hinata exclaim, but then Hinata grabbed the other person's arm and suddenly rushed over, slapping them on the chest. Hinata was stunned. His daughter's previous aggressiveness was very poor. I hesitated to make a move, but this time it was so fierce. The coordination between the sprint and the soft fist in the front, as well as the fake movements when charging over, to deceive oneself. Hui Tian. Hinata opened her heart wide and instinctively used it. But when I first used it, I regretted it a bit. How could I use this move myself? But the next second he was stunned, and Hinata's already pale eyes suddenly became unconscious. That feeling was like losing consciousness, and then chakra appeared in Hinata's hand. As Hinata's figure unfolded, it flew backwards, but the next moment it quickly rushed over. The duration of rebirth is over 2 seconds. My arm is slightly injured, and the chakra is still sufficient for 2 attacks. The effect of my eyes is not significant and I don't need to activate it, which can save chakra. Using rebirth will cause stiffness. The stiffness lies in my lack of flexibility in my footsteps, so. In an instant, Hinata's mind seemed to be filled with numerous summaries of battles, with various pieces of information constantly flooding into his mind, making the battles seem simpler. Hinata had just regretted the birth of their consciousness, and when they withdrew their move, they wanted to take a look at Hinata, only to find that the opponent was charging towards them faster. Unfortunately, I was in a recovery movement after releasing a skill, and I was kicked by Hinata into the leg bend. Hinata's body suddenly bent, and chakra couldn't even release it in time. I saw Hinata slapping chakra on the forehead with his palm this time. Hinata's spirits surged and he could no longer conceal his strength. The powerful chakra immediately bloomed, and the pattern of gossip appeared from below, directly shaking away the embryonic fields. This time, Hinata regret it even more. They are afraid that their daughter may not have been injured. But when he turned around, he saw Hinata's hands interlocking in front of his chest. Even Junfei's arm was injured, and there was also chakra on top for defense, which was an instinctive judgment made by the body in an instant. The difference is too big, the chakra difference is too big, the physical strength, the body shape difference. It's not a match. It seemed as if after muttering, Hinata suddenly collapsed and fainted in place. Hinata quickly stepped forward and picked up Hinata, looking at his daughter who had fainted, but his mood was particularly good. After a simple examination, it was found that there was only a slight redness and swelling in the arm, and the whole person seemed to have exhausted their energy and fainted. Okay, that's great. Although Nissan doesn't know what's going on with Hinata, their performance just now was excellent. The combat consciousness that erupted in that moment, if Hinata had a level of endurance above average, Hinata suspected that he might have been killed. The stiff time of turning to the heavens will inevitably result in my legs being broken, and secondly, I will not be shaken open by my gossip palm. Unfortunately, Hinata is too weak, as if scraping Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. School and Exercise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, Hinata woke up with a slight soreness in her arms and even more so in her whole body. That state of physical exhaustion is very uncomfortable, not just physical exhaustion. It seems like I can't explain my own state during the battle clearly. If you don't understand, you can ask Jingxiangye later. However, that feeling was really satisfying. In the past, the battle in Hinata always felt monotonous and the tactics used were just average. But the afternoon practice gave Hinata a refreshing feeling of using it, as if he had really learned what he had learned. That state is very powerful, but it consumes a lot of energy. Wake up. Hinata was still pondering as Hinata pushed the door open and walked in. Hinata quickly said, "Father." Hinata interrupted Hinata's words and said, "I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. Your thoughts in the afternoon were very good. What's lacking now is strength, take a good rest for yourself." After calming down and delivering dinner, Hinata turned around and left. The family has hope, but Hinata used to appear very weak and not tough enough. But now it seems different, which makes him feel very relieved. This night seems particularly beautiful. After dinner, I didn't seem to be very full, but today I was very happy. Tomorrow I will go to school and inquire about Jingxiangye. The news of Kiba being attacked by a low-yield nuclear bomb spread, and Kiba himself was confused and disoriented inside. The reconstruction of the village began, and the third-generation Hokage faced questions from other villages, which could only be said to be a form of rebellion and harassment. In short, the news spread haphazardly. Some people said that Kiba's new weapon was going to war on Yunin village, while others said it was rebellious and wanted to ambush Kiba. Some even believed that there was a strange organization attacking Kiba. The last statement, Jingxiangye, can tell at a glance who spread it. This group doesn't seem very busy, does it? Walking on the way to school, listening to the villagers discussing, this means of transferring hatred has something to do. Does Tuanzang, who manipulates public opinion, seem to enjoy doing so? I really want to switch to a virtual big screen and directly expose this cute little girl in the group collection. Jingxiangye murmured a few words and also came to the school. After entering the classroom, I realized that I seem to have arrived quite early today. The impact on my own house is not significant, it's just a collapsed wall and roof. Jingxiangye is not in a hurry to repair it, so there is basically no psychological burden. Walking into the classroom feels a bit boring, propping up my chin and looking out the window. Hinata seemed to come quickly, and as soon as he walked into the classroom, he saw the young man lazily looking out the window with his head propped up. My eyes seemed to be lost in thought, looking dazed. "Good morning, Yi Jun." Hinata sat not far from Jingxiangye and whispered a greeting. Jingxiangye regained her composure and lazily said, "Hinata, good morning. Today after school, I will go and exchange the golden bricks for money. Tomorrow, I will share some of your good meals with you. But I hope you can take me through the next task." Is it difficult to admit that others are excellent? It's not difficult at all, and I even wish others were better. Hinata was stunned. Why did he just say it so bluntly? But the feeling of being valued, trusted, and convinced that one is strong seems pretty good. Due to her personality, she has always been a bit transparent. It's something that others casually bring along when they eat together, or when they play together. In short, it's just a perfect combination. I will work hard. Yi-jun, yesterday. Hinata described yesterday's situation with difficulty, indicating that she didn't understand. Jingxiangye was a little sad after listening for a while. You are in the first stage of Gene Lock, which is a special ability. It can greatly enhance your combat ability, such as fighting awareness, self-control, instinctive response. In this state, your physical strength will be consumed faster, but your control of the fight will be greatly improved. Is it like this? Hinata recalled for a moment, as if it was really like this. Jingxiangye nodded and said, indeed, with this thing, no one at your age is your match. For example, that genius Sasuke, he couldn't be your match. Jingxiangye lazily said, but didn't notice that there was already a genius standing at the classroom door. Sasuke's face was ugly. Although Uchiha's residence was affected, it didn't matter if he still had an older brother, so he didn't need to worry about anything. So he also came early. There shouldn't be anyone else in the classroom yet. As soon as he entered the classroom, he heard someone say that Sasuke was a genius. Don't say he was very happy, he's not even your opponent, don't say he's very angry. Especially when seeing that person as Hinata, as the two major families of Kiba, especially those famous for their pupil technique, Sasuke has always regarded himself as a genius. At least in this young class, he is indeed a genius. Many ninjutsu techniques are well understood, and even simple techniques and the use of chakras are quite good. How could I possibly not compare to that small and transparent embryonic field? Hinata felt embarrassed when she saw Sasuke come in, so she lowered her head and sat on the side without speaking anymore. Sasuke gazed at Kikayi, a commoner ninja in the class who was even more transparent than Hinata. At least Hinata is still a child of a big family, while the person in front of him is only from a commoner background. Watching the other person turn a blind eye to his gaze, Sasuke turned to Hinata, who was bowing his head. Wow, these two people treat themselves as invisible. Although Sasuke was not yet as aloof due to family upheavals at this time, his introverted personality couldn't help but feel aloof. Due to the name of genius and outstanding appearance, the audience's praise is not excessive. He is still very angry now that he is being ignored, but he has nowhere to put in his effort. Subsequently, people began to enter the classroom one after another, and Irika also walked in from behind. It's just that he's clearly not in good condition and looks very tired. After thinking for a moment, maybe his home is also gone. So you have to be a repairman and also take care of the tasks of ninjas, so does it seem very tiring? Then, looking at the other classmates, it seemed that except for a few big family members named Xiaoqiang, everyone else seemed very tired. The productivity of the ninja world is not very good, everything boils down to war. It's a bit ridiculous. The day's course ended with Irika trying to stay energized, indicating that he had done his best. After the course ended, I hurriedly went home. The classmates were preparing to leave one after another, and at that moment Sasuke suddenly jumped out and said, Hinata, I want to challenge you. The whole class seemed to explode, and the challenge to the other person was probably because they were very strong. Kuchutian has always been a little transparent in the class, which makes Sakura feel very confused on one side. Later, a split personality seemed to be roaring loudly. What is the situation? Inoue is even more confused. Can it be said that Hinata is also a genius? The other few people seem to be preparing to watch the excitement. Ya and Ino, who seemed to have a good relationship, asked Hinata beside him, Hinata, why did Sasuke suddenly challenge you? Sasuke's genius name was very real, and it seemed that everyone in the class was observing this scene at first glance. Lumuru looked at both sides muttering a troublesome sentence. He couldn't understand why Sasuke suddenly wanted to challenge Hinata. No one has ever thought that Hinata is very powerful. Her delicate appearance and low voice seem to indicate that she cannot be powerful. A strong person needs a certain temperament, which Hinata does not possess. Hinata was a bit flustered for a moment. She instinctively turned her head to look at Kyoka Leaf, only to find that she had just turned her head to look out the window. He seemed indifferent to everything in front of him, and Hinata didn't know for a moment whether or not to agree to Sasuke's request. But then he thought that if he wasn't strong enough, he wouldn't be able to complete the task, and punishment would come to him in the realm of ninja. Secondly, I still have some dreams, such as helping Ning Ci revive his father. Or perhaps become stronger. Don't be so weak. Secondly, Jingxiangye trusts himself very much and is very, very certain that he will become stronger and can assist him in completing tasks. He is also working hard to complete the task and does not want to endure disasters in the world. Of course, Hinata didn't understand what Kyoka Yoshiba was thinking, so he could only say that he asked him to do it, so he had to live up to this trust. I accept your challenge, Hinata said quietly, but stood up. She seemed to think of Alice, who chose to fight for her partner even in the face of such a terrifying monster. The change in temperament is most obvious, as if several people familiar with Hinata have felt that inexplicable emotion. Sasuke snorted unhappily and said, "Let's go to the training ground outside." Children at this age are not only fond of playing, but also concerned about face. Sasuke, who has always been considered a genius, feels like he has been provoked by his eyes. No matter what, this is something that must be proven. I am a genius, and even more so, I am a genius of Uchiha. I will not lose to Bai Yen. Adults don't care about children's fights, so a group of people came to the playground outside. Everyone stood still and Hinata casually put on a posture similar to Alice's hands, which also made Ning Ci, who rushed over, frown. Just now he heard that Uchiha's genius was going to challenge Miss Hinata, whom he protected. Although he didn't like it, he still had to take responsibility. When we arrived at the playground, we saw that there were quite a few people here, and both sides seemed to be in place. However, Miss Hinata's starting posture did not seem to be the familiar soft fist. Sasuke saw a charge forward from here, and Ning Ci in the distance couldn't help but sweat for Hinata. Couldn't he even open his eyes? But from Hinata's perspective, Sasuke, who rushed towards him, did not pose any threat and punched him head-on as he approached. Hinata's mistake did not immediately counterattack, and Sasuke was stunned for a moment. Did the other party react so quickly? Is it truly a white eye? Who are you looking down on? Sasuke looked at the other person as he just turned around and never fought back, as if waiting for his attack made him even more angry. Turning around and kicking it, he jumped up in place and flipped over, then kicked it sideways. But in Hinata's eyes, this move was really full of flaws. She didn't even need to use a soft fist and kicked her leg sideways in place. Sasuke, who was playing handsome side kicks in mid-air, rolled out in place. Far away. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.